All right, let's go on a journey. And this isn't just a trip across the map, we're actually going back in time. We're on the hunt for a legendary island, a place that once sat at the very edge of the known world, an island they called Thule.
So think about this for a second. Where did the ancient world actually end? For sailors back then, this wasn't just a philosophical question, it was a terrifying reality. Their maps had hard borders, and beyond those borders, well, that's where the monsters and the complete total unknown were supposed to be. But one explorer, he dared to sail right off that edge.
And what he found out there, well, it became the stuff of legend. He gave this place a name, Thule. For the Greeks, this was it, the ultimate northern frontier, a place of strange, endless light, and an even stranger, slushy sea.
But, this isn't just some myth or a fairy tale. Our story kicks off with a real person, an incredibly brave explorer who literally pushed the boundaries of his world and left behind a puzzle that has kept historians guessing for centuries.
So let's meet our guy. His name was Pythias. Now, he wasn't from a famous city like Athens or Sparta. He was from a Greek colony called Massalia, which today we know as Marseille in France. And way back in the 4th century BC, he decided to set out on one of the most ambitious voyages in all of antiquity. And let me tell you, his journey was absolutely epic. First, he sailed all the way around Britain, which was a massive achievement all on its own. But he didn't stop there. No, he pointed the nose of his ship north, out into the cold, completely uncharted Atlantic, and he just kept going. Until he found it, Thule.
Okay, so here's where things get a little frustrating for us. Pythias's original logbooks, his journals, they're all lost to history. All we have are bits and pieces, little quotes and references that later Roman and Greek writers included in their own books. It's kind of like trying to solve a huge mystery with only a handful of scattered witness statements.
So what do these old accounts tell us? Well, they describe the people of Thule as pretty resourceful. They weren't exactly big game hunters. They were more like farmers and foragers, living on things like millet, fruits, and roots, and they even made drinks from grain and honey. It sounds like a simple agricultural life, but in a really harsh, unforgiving climate.
But this is where the story gets really weird, and honestly, kind of contradictory. Some of the accounts mention a lack of pure sunshine, which makes you think of a gloomy, overcast, foggy place. But then, other writers talk about a land of the midnight sun, where during the summer, it's basically daylight all the time. So, which one is it? How can both possibly be true?
And then there's this, probably the most mind-blowing clue he brought back. Pythias said that if you went past Thule, the sea itself changed. It became this thick, slushy, impassable thing. It wasn't quite water, it wasn't air, and it wasn't ice, but some strange mixture of all three. I mean, can you imagine? For a sailor from the Mediterranean, this must have felt like he'd literally reached the end of the world.
All right, so we've got our ancient clues. Now it's time to put on our detective hats and start a proper modern-day investigation. Let's line up the prime suspects for the real, true location of Thule.
And believe it or not, our single biggest, most important piece of evidence is just one number: 6. Pythias was super specific about this. He said Thule was a 6-day sail north of Britain. This one little detail, it's the key to the whole mystery.
So let's run through the suspects, shall we? Okay, some people have suggested Smala over in Norway, or maybe even Iceland. But look, both of those are around 500 miles from Britain. That is way too far for a 6-day trip in an ancient ship. It just doesn't add up. Now, Iceland does fit that whole impassable frozen sea idea to its north, but the travel time, it's a deal breaker. But then, one suspect really starts to look good: the Faroe Islands. They're located almost directly north of Britain, and they're about 230 miles away. That fits a 6-day sail almost perfectly. Geographically, this is our prime suspect. Case closed, right?
Well, it's never that simple, is it? Just when we think we've cracked the geographical puzzle, one final piece of evidence pops up, and it throws the entire investigation into total chaos.
I mean, look at it. The sailing time, the direction, every single geographical clue points straight to the Faroe Islands. It really feels like we've solved it.
Except there's one giant glaring problem. See, Pythias didn't just describe a rocky island. He described an inhabited island with farms and people. But when we look at the modern evidence, something is very wrong. And this right here is the final baffling contradiction.
Archaeologists have done extensive research, and they've shown that the Faroe Islands, and Iceland for that matter, were completely uninhabited in the 4th century BC. No people, no farms, no grain, no honey. The geographical evidence points one way, and the human evidence points in the complete opposite direction.
So what does that leave us with? What was Thule really? Was it a real place, like the Pharaohs, that Pythias found, but maybe he got the details about the people mixed up with stories he heard from somewhere else? Or was Thule never one single island at all, but more of a composite legend, a story woven together from all the mysteries of the foggy, distant north? For now, the hunt for the lost island continues.